So, a friend of mine, we've been friends for, 15, 20 years now. He's like me, he shares these memes. He shares very similar opinions to mine. And, his are usually politically motivated. Mine are usually politically motivated as far as when I post stuff. But, I said that I wouldn't do politics in the thing, and I want anybody that knows that, scroll back to the end, because I'm going to tell you something moving forward that may, to help some people, maybe help all of you that actually have decided to listen to me. But my friend shared this meme about not sharing your confidences, right? And the gossips of this world are nothing more than bullies. The difference between a gossip and a bully is a bully will be just obnoxious till there's just no end. The gossip is sneaking around behind your back. They're creating the atmosphere for you to have to deal with a bully, right? And there's a couple problems that I see over and over again on the internet. And one of the biggest ones is the advice that I'm from Gen X. So the advice that our families, our parents, our grandparents used to give us was absolute bullshit and hogwash. I mean, one-liners again, right? So you have to take the one-liners and kind of put them together before you get real advice. It all sounds good in one sentence. Like, it just proves that nobody had the attention span that they're all knocking millennials and below for not having. Because otherwise, we would have books or at least like little mini pamphlets, not a one-liner like, turn the other cheek. Pick and choose your battles. Right? Gen X loves to tell you that we all were singing Kumbaya and we didn't deal with any of that shit. And they will cite the Breakfast Club. Let me tell you about the Breakfast Club. Go back to that scene where all those kids are sitting there. And Andrew / Emilio Estevez tells everybody why this wrestling kid is in detention. He's in detention for committing sexual assault. He took duct tape and wrapped it around a hairy ass, which means he wrapped it around genitals. But back in the 1980s, we're not allowed to talk about that stuff in public. Shh. Shh. But he shares that when they pulled that duct tape off, skin came off. He sexually assaulted another child to be funny and to make his dad proud. We are not the generation that a lot of us want to tell you in hindsight we are cracked up to be. Our bullies were relentless just like yours. The difference is our bullies didn't have 24/7 access via the internet. And trust me, bullies come from parents that are usually bullies. Just a fact. And therefore, they're not limiting their access to the internet like your parents might be limiting yours. So you wake up the next morning and you've been bombarded with shit that happened at 2 o'clock in the morning when your parents expect you to be asleep. So, when you're dealing with bullies and in the gossip form, because gossip is bullying. Gossip, especially gossip is more heinous. They take a little piece of information they get from you by pretending to be interested, and then they run with it. And let me explain to some of you something that, and this is for the adults, this is for the Gen X and the boomers. Years ago, a guy sat next to me at the bar, and at the time I was dating somebody, and he was sitting talking to somebody, and I ended up listening to this guy's entire problems. I mean, on and on and on and on. This guy didn't even like me. I knew he didn't like me. I even looked at him, I said, "You don't even like me. Why are you talking to me?" He says, "I know you." He goes, "Doesn't matter if you like me or not. You'll listen You'll be nice about it because you know I'm obviously having a rough time. And unlike everybody else in this room, you won't say a word about what I just said to you. That should be the bar, people, that we live by. But most of you can't do it because you didn't learn it at a younger age, and you're never going to learn it now, although I would behoove you to try. But yeah, kiddies, when they talk about how great our generation was, they are so full of shit. We were not all friends and kumbaya, and the only video I've seen of anybody where that might have been genuinely true is this big kind of burly guy, and he said he played football in high school, and you know what? Every high school, well, almost every high school, had that big burly guy that nobody was gonna mess with because he could knock the stuffing out of everybody. He could knock the stuffing out of all the teachers, he could knock the stuffing out of every kid in school, and he was just a nice guy because nobody was gonna mess with him. And he was sweet, but he's not living in reality for the rest of the people he went to school with. And the fact that some of these people tell you that we were all singing Kumbaya, there's one woman, she annoys the piss out of me when she starts doing that. She's got some cool things to say periodically. She really does. But when she starts talking Gen X and how great we were, no, we were not. Jesus. Don't cite the Breakfast Club. It's exactly everything that was wrong with us while we were sitting there in that little kumbaya moment as Andrew / Emilio Estevez's character admits to sexual assault. So when we all talk about all the advice that we got as kids, and then we pass it to you guys, like, turn the other cheek. You always have two. That's why you have two. Combine that with pick and choose your battles. You can't win all the time. It's just not going to happen. Nobody is. And the truth of the matter is that all of the advice we got was one-line crap. And let's be honest, when they talk about the attention span of the millennials and Gen Z and the new generation that'll be coming up, the youngsters, having the attention span of a gnat, and it's all because of TV, and it's all because of this, and all because of that. Bullshit. One-liners exist because we as a species have the attention span of a gnat. And that's why you're like, oh yeah, that sounds great, that sounds funny, and then all of a sudden you're like, but this doesn't apply to this situation. What do I do now? Well, what you do now is you go, oh crap. You have to pick another one-liner. All right, forget the one-liners. Gossips will do whatever they can to get something out of you, and they will make it up if they can't get anything out of you. That's just the way it is. I've dealt with it my entire life. Grown-ass adult boomers and Gen X, all the way up in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, even 70s. Me. So, here's the thing. At a certain point in my life, I had been bullied so relentlessly in middle school that I decided I was going to learn how to defend myself. And my advice as one of the 80-20 rule kids, you guys get taught this in, I think, middle school, maybe high school mathematics. But the 80-20 rule is something that boomers didn't even get taught because the statistics behind that didn't win the Nobel Prize until the late 1950s. And they didn't teach most of Gen X it because it was considered above and beyond the average student. So only advanced kids would have learned it, and probably only senior year or in college. But the statistics say 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is 80% of them have never thrown a punch. I don't care what they say. 80% of them have never thrown a punch. 80% of them have never been pushed. 80% of them have never been hit. Only 20% of us know what it's like to be knocked down, hit. Now, women that have been physically abused and in domestic violence, actually the 80-20 rule still applies, ladies. I mean, not to the boomers, and definitely not to the silent generation, because, you know, we were legal punching bags if you were married to a man back then. Legal punching bags until 1993, and some states didn't implement the federal laws until the early 2000s. So Gen X definitely knows what it's like. Gen X women know about rate of 30% what it's like to be a punching bag for some jackass. But you have to understand that the only way to deal with gossips and bullies is sometimes you do have to turn the other cheek. It's just not worth it. It's where pick and choose your battles comes in. It's not worth it. When a bully is constantly just berating you, there's a certain point where you're going to have to deal with it. And you know you're going to have to deal with it. And you do not have to deal with it with fists or physical violence. First of all, never hit someone that hasn't hit you first. But boy, oh boy, you better know how to scrap if they're going to hit you. I do not condone violence, boys and girls, but I will tell you, you hit somebody, you better be prepared for them to go wildcat, rabid dog on you, because nobody should be touching anyone else physically ever without their permission. And just striking somebody, hitting someone is absolutely without their permission. But you kids, and adults for that matter, hold your own confidences. You're gonna have to, if you wanna let people in, you're gonna have to take the risk of confiding in people. You can't live your life without friends and without confidences. And I'm very fortunate that I moved around quite a bit, and I have friends that I promise you would keep my confidences. There's a couple of them that I really love and adore, and that are really good friends that I know they wouldn't keep my confidences with everybody. They might tell their best friends. And then you don't know, you can count on their best friend to keep their mouth shut. But you cannot go through life because of bullies and gossipers, which gossipers are bullies. Let's get that straight right now again. Afraid. You can't do it. I'll be honest. My own ex-husband shared personal confidences and then used them against me. And it took me years to realize, because of him, I was at a recovery point from severe trauma. And he decimated that because I confided in him what had happened to me, and he used it against me. And it took me another decade to recover. So, yes, some of those people you let in might decimate you. A lot of them, if you pick wisely, and you will learn to pick wisely as you get older, a lot of them will hold your confidences. There's risk. There's always risk with everything. Another dumb one-liner? No reward. That's some risk. But when you are facing those gossipers and those kind of bullies that just are screamers, whatever, yeah, at a certain point, you're going to have to say something bad. You're going to have to deal with it. Or you're just going to have to walk away, and you're going to have to make that decision yourself. No one else can make that decision for you. But reserve your reaction till you know you can decimate them. Shred them the way they've attempted to shred you. Not physically, but metaphorically. People don't fuck with me. A lot of if you've tried to comment, a lot of the comments on YouTube, especially the incels, one of them even called me a walrus. A walrus is a majestic animal, sweetheart, and they are a predator. By all means, call me a walrus. The women are more violent. The female walrus is more violent than the male walrus. Those talks apparently get in the way. So, see what I mean? Deal with it if you want to. What I did was make the comments very strict because I don't want people to read that and I don't want to feed it. That's not what this is about. And they won't say anything to you if you are in my comments, because I will delete their shit and I will report them to YouTube and I will not tolerate it. There is just a lot that you can do to protect yourself, but closing out everyone isn't it. Just trust your instincts, because your instincts, people like to say, oh, I don't trust your instincts, that's just hogwash. No, your instincts are your subconscious mind telling you who to and who not to trust. Instincts aren't really instincts. Instincts is your subconscious mind doing the analysis for you. And some of you don't have a brain in the first place, so your instincts are shit. But most bullied people, especially kids, guys, you guys, by the time you're teenagers, you recognize it, you feel it, you can see it, you can smell it, you know it. You know it when you see it. You see the certain mannerisms they all have in common. You see certain things, and you go, oh. And it's a shame that so many people end up learning that so late, because it takes so long. We've got all these one-liners, you know. Protect yourself, but don't close yourself off, okay? Now, for those of you that waited for or have been scrolling, I have said that I wouldn't do politics. I don't want to do politics. I just don't. I would do issues, right? Because we need to talk about the real issues infecting and punishing and just all the nonsense that just has become the norm. And we need to talk about the real problems. Nobody's talking about the real problems anymore. They're just so busy talking about the nonsense. And I could talk about the nonsense and probably have 1,000, 2,000 viewers by now, because every page that I follow that started like that, in less than a couple months, they have 1,000 followers. I could care less. But I am doing the immigration series, which is not politics. That is a real issue we need to deal with. We need to have a real conversation about it. So those series will be in the playlist, and it has its own playlist already. So the videos that get done will be added to the playlist. And I have debated whether or not I would cover Project 2025. I am reading their manifesto, and there's a lot in there, and they contradict themselves a lot. Let me say that again. They contradict themselves a lot. So a lot of evangelicals think they're buying into something, but they have no idea what they're actually buying into. You're getting showed a couple sentences out of 970 pages, and you're like, yeah, I'm on board. Holy shit. As you read what they really want, it's terrifying. And they're hiding it right there in plain sight. They've become so emboldened. This thing's terrifying. But I'll get into that in the first video when I do the Project 2025 video, which is going to be today, but you're not going to see it today because I will work on it several times before I release it. But I feel it's very important. I feel this is the biggest threat to us, the biggest issue. And there's just no way of avoiding the fact that it's laden with things that I don't want to talk about. Religion, politics, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about issues, but this is the biggest issue in our country right now. thank you for sticking around. If your kids stuck around, or whoever stuck around that listened to the early part and didn't want to hear that part of it, you don't have to. You don't have to watch those videos. But if you're young and you want to know, and you want to know somebody that actually read this shit, I'm telling you, it's garbage. Oh my god. But once I finish it, I can do a full analysis, right? And of course, I'm not going to be able to contain myself in some cases, so there will be parts that I will whip out there and do right away. They will be there, right? And for all the rest of you, hey man, happy hump day. Get you some. Peace.